No, I'm not doing it. No, not going there. I dressed up for last Halloween's video. Quite frankly, it was ridiculous. No, I'm not doing it. Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. I'm Paul Clark and welcome to my studio. Now, what have I got for you today? Well, we're going to have a go at this seasonal spooky little black cat. And if you did miss last year's, I did a nice haunted house, link above. So come and join me. So come and join me, and we'll paint this. We'll paint this step by step. What's happening? What's going on? Okay, so for today's materials, my paper is some Arches cold press, £140, and it's in a block form, so it doesn't need stretching, but any decent watercolour paper will do. My colours today, just four: cadmium yellow and orange, some burnt sienna, and a very popular colour at the moment is the Daniel Smith's Moonglow. Now, a few of you have suggested that if you buy it in stick form, you can chop it up, stick it into a pan, and it works out a lot cheaper than buying it in a tube. Now, if you haven't got that colour, it's quite easy to mix yourself. I've just used here some cobalt blue and alizarin crimson, and you can get something which is fairly similar. And for my brushes, all 5 of them from my range, the Mop, number 12 and number 6 round, 3/4 inch flat, and of course my trusty number 3 Rigger. So no photo reference today, as this was an amalgamation of 3 or 4 photos, but the drawing template is available to download free of charge from my website. Details in the description below. Now, the only little bit of masking fluid I'm using today is here in his eyes. Right, off we go with my mop and some clean water. Now, Arches can be quite a thirsty paper, so I'm using lots of water. Then straight away, using my flat brush, I'm painting in some cadmium yellow in quick broad strokes right across the cat, but then just dabbing out fairly roughly with a tissue and a damp brush. And I'm not really worried if some of the yellow gets left. Next, I'm just dropping in some stripes of cadmium orange. And now in with the Moonglow, still very much wet in wet. Now let this dry. Then I'm roughly re-wetting in the main body using my number 12 brush, just to make sure the paint keeps moving. Then with a good creamy consistency mix of Moonglow. and then using some clean water to soften some of the edges to create this slight sort of fur effect. Still wet and wet, dropping in a much heavier pigment mix to create some shadow and depth. Next, I'm simply drying out my brush and lifting out a few areas just to suggest a little light. Now, it often closes up, so you may have to do this several times. Next, with my smaller number 6, I'm adding in a little more shape to his body here. Now, continuing on with my number 12 brush in the tree stump, but this time I'm adding in a little burnt sienna and letting it mix on the paper. Now here, a very strong, creamy, dare I even say yogurty mix of Moonglow to really get some very deep dark values. Then back again with my number 6 for some twiggy details. And then using it to lift out a few highlights. Here, with the wooden sharpened end of my brush, to score in a few lines to suggest some grain in the wood. Back with my number 6, and I'm trying to get a nice wiggly line to these branches. It always helps to give a bit more of a scary feel to your trees. And here, just swapping over to my Rigger, which is nice and springy to give that looser, more natural look. Adding just a little more detail here, and I've just decided to give this more of a thorny, spiky feel, something a bit like a hawthorn tree perhaps. Now, with a very light watery wash, I'm putting in a little suggestion of all these leafy twiggy bits. And here just some further dark detail on the stump. So now we need to let this totally dry. So it's a perfect time for a short break and a glass of, well, what else could it be but a glass of Morehouse's Black Cat. So now this is totally dried, I'm adding on top another layer of Moonglow to give a little more definition and suggestion of fur, with lots of short dabby strokes. Here I'm just taking out the masking fluid with a rubber eraser, and then with a very strong mix of the MOONGLOW, painting in his eyes, making sure to leave that little white sparkle. Now you can paint the colour of his eyes anything you want. Green, blue, and even an orange can work really well. I just felt this turquoisey colour was a nice contrast with the orange. So next I'm just using an ordinary black ballpoint pen for some very fine fur detail. So next, with a grey pastel pencil, as I felt that white just might be a little bit severe, I'm drawing in a few highlight details, but you could also use some acrylic or gouache. And I think we're just about done. Now there is just one thing I forgot, which I wanted to include from the beginning, and that's a flock of ravens or bats. And I think I just want to green his eyes up just a little bit, so I'm adding a touch of yellow. Now we really are finished. Let's start it again. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and you'll give it a go. Coming up now are some Halloween cats taken from Margot's Facebook challenge. So please have a look at those. Sorry we couldn't include everybody's, there were just too many. So please don't forget to do all the usuals, like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment, and as ever, I'll look forward to seeing you all again next week. So take care. Cheers now.